Hello champions and welcome back to another episode of SoloDark. We will be starting session 0 of the Grim Expedition. Now, if you watched our previous SoloDark campaign, which was more of a meat grinder, that would have our surviving hero, Sam Figg, in here. Now, it's not required viewing, but if you want to check it out, it's up there. It's a little bit of fun seeing what happens to level 0 characters in a solo campaign. But let's set the scene, shall we? We meet our first adventurer and the new inductee to the Dungeoneer Society, Sam Figg. He's a medium-sized halfling, a little bit more on the rotund side. He's got curly brown hair, you know, your typical halfling look. Chubby, rosy cheeks, although there is a little bit of pain behind those eyes. The night previous, Sam found himself in an initiation. A new delve was opened up in the graveyard called the Sepulchre of the Cursed Crown. He was the only one to make it out alive. At the edge of town laid a burnt out, abandoned tavern that's been now converted into the meeting place for the Dungeoneer Society. Now, you heard growing up of the Dungeoneer Society, a fantastic group of adventurers and explorers that would dive into caves, delves, abandoned ruins, and bring back whatever riches they find for fame and glory. Within the wooded property of the new clubhouse, you see a tavern with a ramshackle addition added to it to patch in the holes from the fire that took place from the previous owner. Tents lie around the property, smoke from campfires comes up, the laughter and music come from within the new clubhouse. Now it's Sam's time to enter the Dungeoneer Society. As Sam enters into the Dungeoneer Society clubhouse, he sees tables, a band playing in the corner, everyone mostly enjoying their night or passed out from enjoying their night a little too much. Sam sees a rather large orc leaning up against the bar, his mutton chops gray with a bald head.
"You're a new recruit? Come on in."
Sam hurries over. "It's me, Sam."
"I don't care who you are."
The orc slams a piece of paper on the tavern top and pushes it over to Sam Figg.
"Fill us out. We'll see you in a bit."
Sam finds the nearest table and sits down. So now we're going to step out of the storytelling a little bit and we're going to kind of figure out Sam's character. So if you've played Shadowdark before, SoloDark's exactly the same. A level 0 character reaches the first level and we have to figure out exactly who they are and who they're going to be. Sam was the only survivor of his recent initiation. But before that, he was a sailor on the nearby sea. With that, we need to start building the character in there. So I've taken the initial stats of Sam Figg, and now I am going to be building on who I think he should be and what he should be doing now. His background's a sailor, his ancestry is a halfling. We're not changing any of that. His alignment is chaotic. That's what I got originally. But the things that will be changing are his HP, his AC, and whatever starting items he gets. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this character sheet almost as like his intake form for the Dungeoneer Society. So now he's looking through these things and figuring out how he can define himself, really. So let's look at his introductory stats, right? He's got good strength, he's got good wisdom, he's got good charisma, he's got okay charisma, and he's got a decent constitution. Immediately, I'm kind of feeling that he's got a pretty good stat spread overall, but I don't know. I don't really see Sam as a fighter, and that's not because he's just, you know, small little halfling. I also see Sam being a ranger. I think in this instance, we're going to let fate decide for us, and we're going to flip the good old trusted coin here. Fighter is the Kraken, ranger is the 1. Let's go. 1. That means Sam Figg is a ranger. With that, his HP is going to change. So they're no longer just going to be his constitution modifier. So it's going to be 1d8 plus 2. Let's roll that 1d8. This character sheet's in the way, 1 second. 4. So 4 plus 2, 6. We already have his background, which is a sailor. Thematically, I'm going to say him becoming a ranger is because of his expert ability at fishing, and he's going to be very proud of his fishing ability. The cool thing with Shadowdark is you also get yourself a little table of of titles to give yourself. So you're just not a ranger, you're a certain type of ranger. So as you level up, that title changes. Since we already know his alignment, he already has a predetermined title for a ranger, and that would be at level 1 to 2, in a chaotic alignment, he is known as a hood. So he is a hoodlum, a hood. We'll just put that in there. So as he checks ranger, you can see on the list that his current rank within the ranger section of the Dungeoneer Society is hood. Now that he's identified himself as a ranger, he gets a series of abilities and stuff that he can do. So I'll fill those in and I'll explain them as they go along. All right, so I've put in his armor and weapon choices, which are leather armor, chainmail, dagger, longbow, longsword, shortbow, short sword, spear, or staff. As a ranger, you also gain the Wayfinder ability, which means you have advantage on checks associated with navigation, tracking, bushcraft, stealth, and wild animals. That will be really good to know. You also get a pretty cool herbalism ability where you can kind of make a herbal remedy that gives you a bunch of things like healing yourself 1 HP, a stimulant that you can't be surprised, and there's a bunch of other ones that I think we'll find out will become incredibly useful along the way. And lastly, as a ranger, you get these ranger talents. You can choose it or you can roll it. In the spirit of randomness, we're going to get 1 talent class roll. Okay, 2d6 on the roll. Let's see what happens. 5. So from 3 to 6, we get +1 to melee or ranged attacks and damage. That's pretty good. So I'm just going to put that in the character sheet here. All right, I just called it level 1 ranger trait, but that's a good start. So Sam fills out his sheet, seems pretty confident with what he saw. He goes, all right, and he heads back over to the bar and plants the paper in front of the orc, and he says, all right, here, just a little, I guess a hood for you.
Ranger, huh?
Oh, yeah. Do I got any stuff to start with? The orc looks down, and in the spirit of randomness, a first level character will get 2d6 times 5 to buy gear and whatnot. So the orc looks around and goes,
all right. So you get
4 times 5 is 20.
Here,
And smacks it on the table.
might want to visit the armory, see what you can get.
Oh, okay. So we're just going to put in 20 gold here right now while we're starting to work things off. He already has a dagger. We're going to keep the dagger from there. He lost his bag of caltrops. He used that in the previous meat grinder to save his ass. He makes his way over to the armory, and you see this really lanky human. Looks like he's been battle scarred, and goes,
Yeah, welcome in. What you looking for? Browse around, I'll get it for ya.
Personally, I think Sam's going to go for some leather armor. It makes the most sense to me because I don't want any disadvantage on stealth. And even though he does become invisible for 3 rounds once per day, I do want to have the ability for a little bit of play there. Let's get the armor down. So in Shadowdark, you have gear slots, and you can carry a number of items equal to your strength stat or 10, whichever is higher. So my strength stat is 16. So technically, I have 16 gear slots. Put those in. Leather armor takes up 1 gear slot, and we're going to put that in there. Armor. My AC is 11 plus my dex mod, so 11 plus 0. It's 11. We went from a 10 to 11. Not great, but whatever. So he hands over 10 gold and immediately gets this kind of old, battle-worn... Clearly, it was taken off the body of someone else, and he hands it over. He's like,
Yeah, that looks like the size of a halfling there. There you go.
Now, Sam already has a dagger, but I think we're going to get a little bit of ranged in there too. So he is going to buy... I think he's going to save some money, and he's going to buy himself a short bow. The armorer comes over with the short bow, puts it on the table, and says,
Don't forget you're going to need to buy some arrows with that too.
So he's marked down that he only has 4 gold now. And we've also added in the additional damage that he was going to get with his level 1 ranged attacks and damage. Hey, this is Peter from the future. I just realized that Sam can have +1 to ranged or melee. We're going to change the trait to be ranged only, and I will just fix that right now. Okay, bye. Back to the video. So seeing that he didn't even have a torch last time, he's definitely going to be purchasing a torch, and he's also going to be purchasing some arrows. Mark down that he's got arrows 20, which is 1 gold, so that brings him down to 3 gold, and that takes up 1 gear slot. Also, I'm not 100% sure on the arrows if 1 arrow equals 1 gear slot. Let me know in the comments below. We're also going to buy a torch, which is 5 silver pieces, and that is going to bring him down to 2.5. He's also going to buy a crowbar. He is going to spend his 1 gold piece on a rope that's 60 feet. He's going to buy a flint and steel, and he's going to have to buy a trusty pole for sure. You see Sam literally go down a list and check things off and hands it over to the armorer, and the armorer comes back with a backpack filled with items. He's like,
There you are. Good luck.
and since I forgot to put in his deity, we're not going to be using the deities from Shadowdark. We're going to be using the deities from my homebrew world in Aslos. So he will be worshipping Sidal, the Wayfinder. That's very typical for people who are sailors and travelers who look to guide their way home. It would make sense that he is at least a little bit religious when it comes to worshipping the Wayfinder. Now, Sam is geared up for adventure, but he has no adventure right now. He looks around the tavern and he can see multiple people sitting with groups, enjoying their drinks and having a fun night. He sees the orc bartender and makes his way over to the orc. And he says, "Oh, excuse me, I've been wondering where would I find my next job?" The orc, who is spitting into a cup and cleaning it, goes,
Well, obviously you gotta look at the job board, but first of all, you can't be going adventuring alone. You're gonna need someone else.
"How would I be finding any sort of, well, I guess, adventuring partner?"
Look up at the recruits board.
The half-orc points a chubby digit over to a board you can see filled with a lot of people looking for work. And this is the next way we're going to be setting up our adventuring ally with Sam Figg. So first off, we're going to roll a d12 to see the ancestry of our adventuring ally. 12. We have a goblin. So we don't know the name of the goblin yet. We'll come up with it, but we'll put a goblin in here. But let's roll our stats first before we decide on the class. I think that's probably the best way to go about this. First one, 11, 7, 14. 14, which means we can keep these if we want. I think we're going to. 13, 11 for wisdom. Last but not least, 6 for charisma. So now we have our stats. Let's roll. I have 6 classes, the base 4, and Ranger and Bard. Let's figure out what we have. 1, which means he's a fighter, which is kind of okay. We have a Ranger, we have a fighter, he can be up close. His constitution's not too bad, actually. Fighter is in there, level 1. So I've just added in the languages and the special ability for a goblin, which is common, goblin, with the languages we know, and we can't be surprised through keen senses, which is actually going to be pretty cool for a fighter. Let's add in all the stuff for a fighter, and then we'll figure out the alignment and their title. Okay, so we figured out their weapons and their armor. They can pretty much use anything they want, but let's figure out the HP now. Their HP is 1d8 per level, plus their constitution modifier, so we will add 1d8 plus 2. Damn, so Sam is actually going to have more HP than our goblin friend here. That's okay. That's the way the dice roll, my friends. Actually, no, I think they have the same together. Yeah, that would make sense. I think it's 6 and 6. Okay, so they're pretty even. They also have the Hauler ability, which means I can add my Constitution modifier to my gear slots. Okay, they also have 1 weapon mastery, which is choose 1 type of weapon, such as long swords. You gain +1 to attack and damage with that weapon type in addition, and you also can add half your level on these rolls, so we'll only be adding the 1. And lastly, we have grit. We can choose strength or dexterity. We have advantage on those checks of that type. So I'm going to choose, since his dexterity is terrible right now, we're going to modify that and we'll say dexterity. And lastly, we have to roll 2d6 to figure out our fighter talent. So with a 6, we have +1 to melee and ranged attacks as well. We have our fighter built out now. Let's figure out their alignment. 3. They're lawful. A lawful goblin. Interesting. So their title would be then Squire. So I'm imagining this goblin just started in the goblin army and is now a squire. And let's roll 1d20 to figure out their background. Wanted. Oh, okay. There's a price on your head, but you have allies. I don't think this character's gonna be overly religious, to be honest with you. I think we're not gonna pick a deity for them. We'll actually roll a random name for them. I think that's also fun. 19. For a goblin on that random name list is Squib. I love it. And so since this is a random character we're rolling up, random first level characters get a crawling kit, 1 weapon, leather armor if they can wear it, and 5 gold pieces. So we'll set that up. Okay, so the crawling kit takes up 7 gear slots, but we'll just put in the items. So he also gets 1 weapon. We're gonna put in his 1 weapon. I personally think it would be hilarious if he had a warhammer. So we're gonna do a warhammer that's 2-handed, and he's also going to be a weapon master in it as well. So he's gonna get a +1 to attack and damage, and then +1 to attack and damage because of his level 1 fighter ability. So, or his attack, not his damage, sorry. He has 5 gold, so he's going to buy a torch as well. He's gonna buy a bag of caltrops. He's gonna buy a flask, and that is bringing him down to 3.7. Squib is now built out as well. Sam's looking over and he sees this kind of ratty looking goblin with leather armor and this gigantic hammer across his back. Oh, excuse me, I have this here. The goblin looks over and goes,
Yeah? Oh, yeah, I am looking for a recruit. What's your name?
oh, my name's Sam Figg, lovely to meet you.
Name's Squib.
So now we have our team of Sam and Squib, an unlikely pair. Sam and Squib see a job board with a bunch of notices posted around there. And this is where we will use our SoloDark to give us an idea of what the job is. Let's roll a prompt. Prevent way. I'll interpret this as someone having to block someone else. Let's say they just pulled a job request to go to a local dive and defend it. Looks like there's a rival gang getting into this dungeon before the Dungeoneer Society. So now they have to prevent the gang from getting into the dungeon while the Dungeoneer Society is figuring out how to open it up. So what is the name of the dungeon? Let's go to our handy dandy dungeon name list. Sepulcher. We already used Sepulcher. Let's do another one. Ruins. Ruins of the Golden Ancestor. Now, this job request says, while the ruins are being figured out, prevent the rival gang or the rival club from showing up. Now, it's 2 days travel, and Squib and Sam seem seemingly ready to go, make out their way to the door. And that's where we're going to end session 0, but I wanted to do something a little fun for the folks that are watching and have made it to the end. I'm going to roll a prompt. And that is going to influence either the next episode or the episode after that. Once the prompt's given, let me know in the comments below what you think should happen, and I'll pick the best one. Surprise. Surprise fear. Alright, champions, you have your prompt. Let us know what surprise fear means to you in the comments below, and I'll pick it to put it into the next episode or the episode after that, wherever it fits thematically. But that's it for me. Why don't you go be a champion at your table, and welcome to the Grim Expedition.